Welcome to Akhand Vidyashram, the first institute of impeccable wisdom. Let's discuss what calcium phosphate, the science of bone teeth structure, the symbol of Divyank ratio. Divine chemistry. Calcium phosphate, as you can see, calcium has got power 2 and phosphate 3 times. Calcium phosphate is a family of minerals and compounds containing calcium and phosphate found naturally in the body, primarily in bones and teeth, as I have said. Calcium phosphate is used commercially in dietary supplements, food additives, medical dental application as such. Now come to the question another way. It is a whole white solid that is a main inorganic compound of home teeth, bones, teeth crucial for their strength. So bones and teeth main ingredient is calcium phosphate. It is used in supplements, as I said, antacids and food products as a white pigment to improve texture in a biochemical applications such as dental and orthopedic implants and bone tissue engineering. Somewhere around the line, it centers around the bones and teeth by and large and application with respect to these two. Now let's talk about one particular mathematical design which I think is very important for everybody to understand chemistry. A positive cation and negative anion. A cation is a positively charged ion formed when an atom loses one or more elements. And anion is a negatively charged ion formed when atom gains one or more electrons. So it is a transfer of electrons. If the electrons are changed, it will be either cation or anion. The key difference lies in their charge. Cations are positively charged, anions are negatively charged, resulting from imbalance between protons and electron balance. Now the question comes, what is the impeccable wisdom in this for every student to understand? Let's look at this particular structure. You have 4 protons inside and 3 outside. That means there is a positive charge. More protons, less electrons. That is cation. That anion has got 4 protons and 5 electrons. That is anion is a negatively charged. So it is all centers around about the electrons and proton balance. If the protons are more, electrons are less, it is positive, and when it is other way, it is negative. I think that is where the chemistry starts. But what is interesting is, in my opinion, cations and anions more or less go and center around inert matter, which like a helium, which is the indwelling zone which maintains its equilibrium. Similarly, in these things, they maintain equilibrium and work like a divine soul itself. Like fluoride becomes 10, chloride becomes 18, sodium becomes 10, potassium becomes 18. That's where both hydrogen, helium, fluoride, chloride and sodium, potassium by and large in ionic form or in the particular form in the first, second and third period function very efficiently like soul consciousness to make you aware of the inner consciousness. That exactly my point is. Every human being is born with inert matter of helium 4, which makes you truthful, honest and tuned with universal consciousness, including sun and the entire universe. Similarly, fluoride, sodium, potassium, chloride, iodine, etc., also in ionic form will make you function much more efficiently to lead toward the truth. Anyone who is able to understand this electronic equilibrium mathematics, sodium or potassium, chloride or things, would be much more conscious of the way body functions within. And I do see most of the electronic combinations like atom, element, molecule, compounds, to great an extent, the one which function as an energy have very power close to inert matter itself, or there is a balance of 10 or other things. We are going to see more and more as we proceed to see different things in divine mathematics, and only divine mathematics, Divyank and related concepts of Divyank alone can explain even divine chemistry by and large. Now comes the question of divine chemistry periodic table. As I told you, calcium is a positively charged and phosphate is negatively charged. Again you have seen the structure Ca plus 2, PO4 minus 3, that exactly more. In calcium, in 2 put together as are a positive, and 3 of phosphate are together as an anion are negatively charged. Now we will go further and see what is again divine mathematics within that. Now Divyank, as I told you, is the divine design of nature, which was recognized, conceived and revealed by Shibhushan Sharma in 2015 only. No one before that has ever reached the level of Divyank, divine design of nature, which is again represented down as 22 by 21, just first stage of creation. And the best example is RBC. And there are 10 stages of development, and that is found everywhere, including Dasavatar or reincarnation. And 0.344 are the Panchbhuta, the 5 elements, which again are about energy. So first, second and third, and the fourth somewhere is only energy, 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 the way it functions. And it manifests as a Divyank ratio, which is 38.1966% and 61.8034. This is two things again. Within that again, 61.80, the square power is equal to 100 times the value of that. That means 10 into 10. This is what I mean with divine mathematics. There is no inconsistency or problem at all. And as I told you before, I am telling again, the pure water is 61 point, and that is Amrit, and that makes all the difference, and all the ionic forms, in my opinion, is only water, water and water, and without water there is no life, and that's it. Now comes to the question of intracellular and extracellular fluid component. Intracellular is a fluid within the cell, and extracell is without the cell. And you can see the outside is extracellular, inside is that, and is separated by the cell membrane, which is a plasma membrane, which is lipid bilayer, and it does not allow water or sodium potassium to go in or come out at all. It is hydrophobic in nature. Only oxygen or lipids by and large can pass through it, because they are the same stage. Otherwise water component, other things are separated, so that it is maintained, and the cell membrane maintains the equilibrium within and outside, and that's what you see sodium outside and potassium inside. And even in action potential, when sodium goes inside and potassium outside, and how the exchange of sodium potassium takes the 3 molecules of this and 2 of that potassium is also into Divyank ratio. Now come to the question general perception, which I see in AI, artificial intelligence, Google and otherwise. The concentration of calcium and phosphate in human body fluids is highly regulated for homeostasis. That means maintaining the internal external environment as such to equilibrium, so that you do not fall sick at all. If you do not want to fall sick, all the 10 parameters like blood volume, homeostasis, estrogen, all the electrolytes, blood pressure, glucose, hormones, everything comes within that, including artificial partial pressure of oxygen and carbon dioxide is also falls into the same process as far as homeostasis is concerned, equilibrium is concerned. Now that is one statement. Now the second statement, which is very important, which we here see or read in general perception, in the books, in the research and thing. The key of maintaining a specific calcium to phosphate ratio C into 4, typically around 1 to 2 into 1. That means it is non-specific. As I told you, golden ratio as 1.618 is too simple, 1.61803397 is too elaborate, and the perfect is 1.618034. Similarly, in this particular thing, it is not 1 to 2, it is not so wide, which everybody talks about it. To support vital functions as a bone mineralization and nerve conduction while preventing unwanted precipitation. And my understanding is, let us say, what is the impeccable wisdom or the divine design in that? And I make it very clear, the ratio is Divyank ratio only. As I told you in the beginning, again, calcium is double, that means 2 power of 2, and phosphate is triple, 3 power, and that is what 38.1 and 6, and that is right infusion. If you have a problem in calcium imbalance within the body, give an infusion which contains calcium in 2 and potassium in that or into Divyank ratio, you will have a perfect absorption of calcium and phosphate together, and you will recover much faster, and that is has to be maintained. Let us be very clear that equilibrium has to be perfect. So calcium and phosphate, if calcium is 1 and phosphate is second part, it should be 1.6180 phosphate and calcium 1. If that ratio is maintained, you should have never a problem in maintaining homeostasis, internal external balance within the human body. That is my point in coming to divine mathematics by and large. I know most of people do not play, but the answer to all the perception of the world finally comes to divine mathematics, divine physics, divine chemistry, divine biology, and divine medical sciences. Anything which is not conclusive in divine mathematics is no use, and that answer for everything is only Divyank, Divyank, and Divyank alone. With that, we can correct all the things and give the perfect knowledge to every student from school, college, university with a consistency. Now come to the question of the sources of calcium phosphate cycle. Number one, the food we take is absorbed from the gastrointestinal system is one part of absorption of calcium and phosphate. Please do not go to the value, it is only a picture which I have taken to show. Absorption from the nature carries calcium and phosphate, goes to gastrointestinal, from small intestine it is absorbed, and what is next is given fecal. Let's say first is absorption from small intestine in the gastrointestinal is where calcium comes. Then it goes to the blood, goes through the liver, etc. Then into the blood and excreted through kidneys, as such you can see very clearly. So this cells, extracellular fluid and kidneys and fluid out. Third thing, it goes to the bones to manufacture into the bone structure and teeth as such. As long as calcium phosphate with Divyank ratio is maintained at regular interval with the water concentration, your bones and teeth will remain perfect. If you are not taking care of water and calcium and phosphate in Divyank ratio, your bones and teeth would also get affected in the process. That is the point I am trying to explain in this. Maintain Divyank in Divyank ratio and water in Divyank ratio, and you are through. Now to come to the question of calcium phosphate as such, I am going to see its concentration. Ionized calcium is 50%, which is 1 to 2 milligram, and calcium complex is anion 9%, and potassium bound is 41%. But I would say free and bound. Bound will be 38.196, which is with the protein as such. You maintain that 38.1966, not 41%. This is again a mathematical correction which I am doing it. But as for the free is concerned, ionized and free, let it be 61.80 of calcium itself. That's my point, and same ratio with calcium and phosphate. Once that is maintained, thou shalt have no problem whatsoever. That is the idea of me showing this particular thing, how divine mathematics can help you to be in equilibrium state, equanimity state, in a samadhi state, and perfectly healthy, wealthy, wise and happy life. That was the point. Now come to the question of another element which is very important along with the calcium phosphate is the zinc coating. So take zinc with calcium and phosphate and all the vitamin E etc. put together in such a way, the zinc will make sure that healing is perfect. The coating will see that, and this particular picture you can see the bacteria of 3 different types. Where there is no zinc, you can see the structure of this product in this product. When you have a zinc along with the calcium phosphate put together as a coating, you will find that bacteria will not affect and they will remain same. That was the idea. In other words, calcium, phosphate, zinc, magnesium and other sodium, potassium, chloride etc. all should be equally balanced with Divyank and that state you will have no problem whatsoever with respect to any of the health issues by and large. And I am trying to understand this, experiment within my own self and understand, and whatever I am sharing is based on my experiences, not of something from the books. Let that be very clear. Every video of mine, every concept of mine is based on my experience within my physical body and nothing other than that. And I think human body is phenomenal. Everything in the chemistry you can experience within that. We are walking, talking encyclopedia of chemistry, physics, mathematics, biology, as well as medical sciences as such. And that's why I stick to these 5 and keep mathematics as such. Now comes to the question of calcium and phosphate. There's another thing which I would like to show. 0.1% of total body calcium is extracellular, very clear. 1% intracellular as far as calcium is concerned. Rest is in the bone. That means literally 99% is in the bones only or the teeth alone. The phosphate, less than 1% is in extracellular, 14 to 15% is intracellular. That means outside the body other than the bone is 15% and in the bone it is only 85%. Why that is 15% outside and 85 inside where the calcium? The reason is very simple. Phosphate by and large is an energy molecule. You need more energy outside than you need inside, so it is always in a mobile, either ATP, ADP or calcium phosphate or for that matter DNA. Even for that matter ribose phosphate, which is chain of DNA, is also phosphate, PO4. So PO4 is energy and from which you get DNA, you get ATP, you get everything. It is adenosine triphosphate, monophosphate or diphosphate. All are phosphate, phosphate, phosphate. That's it. Energy such as more outside than inside. It is not stored, it's more dynamic. Now the comes to the question of equilibrium of calcium, and I would get 10 milligram is to be maintained for 100 ml of blood. That I will not go to 9 to 11, I will go to 10 and leave it at that. And increase and decrease shown in this particular picture very clearly. This is where 2 organs, endocrine organs come to play, very important. One is thyroid, another is parathyroid. Thyroid and parathyroid all put together make sure that absorption from outside through the digestive system and reabsorption this and through this system to deposit to bones and tapering out, that whole equilibrium is maintained very well within that concept, and that is what it is all about. I am sure you can understand 10 milligram is this. When it is reduced, what happens? When it is increased, what happens? How thyroid or parathyroid work function in the process as such, whether it is a calcitonin or parathyroid hormone, when the bone structure or the astrocyte, all are so interconnected. So that way thyroid gland which can produce this and parathyroid from PTH, parathyroid hormone, they play equilibrium role for calcium, phosphate and bone and this structure and absorption, everything. That equilibrium is good. So keeping that particular thing and taking regularly in the quantity along with magnesium, zinc and other things, iodine, etc., you will be much healthier in the process. Now this particular picture I want you to see. You can see on picture one person, somebody is tapping the bone. What does it mean? Second, you see the hand and the twist in that. For that matter, the blood pressure is instrument is put and as increase and you can see certain contraction. What does it bring to your mind? This picture is talking about. I am sure looking at that picture I have not given you an idea. This is actually tetany. One is a established tetany as you see in the center part, and you can even see manifested thing on the part. And if you see the calcium tendency is there, you can put a thing, increase the blood pressure more than systolic blood pressure, the blood flow of the fix will not go. So once it's used up, calcium deficiency comes up and you see this man is not having perfect 10 milligram of calcium in 100 ml of blood, and that could be tendency. Similarly, person who wants to try that out can take deep breathing so much that it will get bound, and when too much of you do and you start getting contractions and things like that, that means again your calcium phosphate balance is not perfect, is not equilibrium. And these are some of the tests which even yoga, akhand yoga and other things are do to see whether you need to go for biochemistry. You can see the manifestation. That is the point which I am trying to show here. This is. So I am sure you know very well that body function can be seen without even doing biochemistry test or going to a medical doctor, because body will manifest that. And I think different function. And now coming to the calcium, one more part which I make it very clear here. Contraction of skeletal muscles or for the smooth muscles or for that matter even cardiac muscles, calcium plays a very important role. It is not only bone structure, although it's 1%, but outside it has a tremendous amount of function with respect to contraction of the muscles itself, and calcium plays very important role. And when it is deficient, it can produce involuntary movements like tetany or pratyaksh tetany, or even to make sure that you will not have any contraction of the muscles, any choking otherwise, or dysfunctions, imbalance. One of the things which have to be kept in consideration or complete percentage is calcium, and then calcium phosphate in same ratio. If you maintain that, you will not have any energy problem at all. I think having explained that, I am happy I have been able to understand how energy is from phosphate, how energy is from oxygen, how all the elements finally in the water form is energy, and similarly in carbohydrate and other thing, how they function energy wise is something which I am going to show you one by one. Here one thing is very clear, how energy works, the balance of calcium phosphate and phosphate energy, and phosphate as a ATP, AMP, ADP and calcium phosphate by and large is energy molecules. Now coming to the last part, I am not going to talk. I think it's enough to make sure that phosphate is energy molecule and calcium phosphate is a very good energy for the muscle, different thing, and also to keep the structure and the balance by and large. And this idea is, my idea is only to make you healthy, wealthy, working, talking encyclopedia with a kind of knowledge, because you cannot function intelligently or otherwise with the calcium phosphate deficiency, come what may be. So perfect health is the only person which is essential for to be intelligent, mathematical, scientist or otherwise. And I think that's enough for today. Thank you very much.